Diana Jones was arrested last night. I don't have the time here. It'll be on the docket that Melissa gives you. I think it was around 9 o'clock last night or so. For DUI, several counts of DUI and leaving the scene of a crash with property damage. We sometimes don't talk about these, or don't have me come in and talk. We just give you the information. But in this case, I felt like it was important that I come in and talk to you a little bit about it. Officer Jones was hired by this agency in February of 2004. In March of 2006, she had a crash involving a DUI. It was investigated by FHP. She pled guilty to that. I don't know what her criminal sanctions were, but our administrative case, she got a 20-day suspension and had to go to some treatment, which she did. In December of 2011, there was a citizen that called in that he was following a police car that was driving recklessly. He got some videotape of it, like on his iPhone. And when police got there, they looked at that videotape and felt like there was enough there that would have led them to do a stop to at least investigate and see if there might be a DUI. So at this time, Officer Jones had made it home and was in a neighbor's house. I won't go into a lot of detail, but they got her out of the house. We made her do an administrative blow, and she did blow over the limit. And we charged her at that time administratively, not criminally, because we didn't see her driving, and she'd already made it home, and she claimed she was drinking after she got home and all those things. So we weren't able to charge her criminally, but we did do an internal investigation, and we did charge her at that time with commission of acts supporting criminal misconduct, departure from the truth for not telling us the truth about what she was doing, some failure to conform to work rules kind of charges, and I terminated her. As you know, they have rights under the contract and all that, just like everybody does in a lot of places. And through due process, she appealed that to an arbitrator, went to arbitration. At the arbitration, apparently I didn't do a good enough job convincing the arbitrator of the facts of that case. He didn't completely believe that what the citizen told him was true, I guess. The video that he had was fairly limited, and it didn't capture everything that happened. So the arbitrator ruled that we had overcharged her. He threw out the charges of the commission of acts supporting criminal misconduct and also the departure from the truth, which were the termination offenses that we had. He let stand some code of conduct kind of things like careless driving and some things, and gave a 60-day suspension. Under our work rules with civil service and all, once the employee chooses something like arbitration, is binding. So whatever they get out of the arbitration, that's what they get. So she had a 60-day suspension, and then we were forced to reinstate her as a police officer. I want to point out, though, they can make me reinstate her as a police officer, but they can't tell me where she works. So once she was reinstated, she was put in our into teleserve, which is a place where people just take reports over the phone.
What's it called?
Teleserve.
Teleserve. Okay.
Yes, we do not. We did not put her back on the street. She was not wearing a uniform. She did not have a police car, and I can tell you without a whole lot of hesitation that for the next 2 years, 1 month, and about 20 days, or however long I got left to work here, that's where she would have been. So, unfortunately, last night there was an incident out in the Atlantic and Hodges area where she struck, it looks like about 4 or 5 cars, some in the parking lot, some on the road, and that's under investigation. And I really can't talk about active internal investigations, but I believe I certainly can tell you that if the charges in this case are proven out that this is what happened, I'm going to terminate her again. So, anybody got any questions?
Yeah, let me ask you, for you to go to money, is that when you tried to prevent this from happening, because obviously that's just such a danger to the public.
Well, it is, and I'm really thankful that nobody got hurt because there were no injuries last night, except maybe to her. She did go to the hospital, and I don't really know her condition. You know, it's a little frustrating, but it's the process. It's like when we arrest somebody that goes to court and the jury finds them not guilty. I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Why did you see fit the first time to terminate her?
Look, the gentleman that called the police and got some of that videotape, at the end of the arbitration, the arbitrator felt like it wasn't strong enough for him to accept all that as fact. And without that, we didn't have much of a case. But what I'll tell you is that leading up to that and to that moment, I believed that man. And I think today, probably most everybody in town believes that man too.
Is
Sure.
there a process for officers that are found with a DUI for termination, or is there a process, suspension first, or how many times?
Generally speaking, it kind of depends on the circumstances, but if it's just kind of a straight up DUI, generally speaking, they get a fairly lengthy suspension and have to do some treatment.
What message does this send to the general public that this officer unfortunately was returned even not to street duty and now apparently has an issue with substance?
Well, what I'd like to say, what I'd like for the message to be is that, part of my job as the undersheriff is to police the police. And we did that. We've done that several times. And in the last instance, we terminated her, and she was brought back through that process. Look, it wasn't the strongest of cases. By the time the police got to the house where she was, she had been inside for quite some time, and her claim was that she drank inside after the fact. So though she blew over the limit that day, she had some time inside that house after she was driving her car, and she claims that that's what she was doing. I didn't believe her then. I don't believe her now. But, like everything we do, we make our best case. We put it in front of the people that judge that, and then we move on from there, and that's what we did.
What do you say to those people who might have, lost trust in police officers? There have been a number of police officers arrested for DUI from your department.
There have been some. There have been a couple recently, obviously. We've got a little more than 3,000 employees here, over 1,600 police officers. Unfortunately, we're going to have people that get into trouble, just like people do in all walks of life. But what I can tell you is that we take it very seriously here. We don't hide from it. We hit it head on and deal with it, following the rules that we have to follow. And, just like I mentioned a while ago, a lot of people have issues with some of the criminal cases that they've been involved in because a suspect is found and arrested, but then it's not proven in court. And, we live in a society where people are innocent until proven guilty, and that's the way it should be. And obviously, I didn't do a good enough job proving it last time, but we'll work on it.
Were you surprised at her statements, F this, F that, during her second arrest? I mean,
I read what you read. I wasn't there, obviously. I didn't go out. But I don't know how surprising it is to me. Not saying anything about her, just in general, the contact that I've had with people that are involved in those kinds of instances, if they are drinking and things that, people act in different ways. So I don't know.
Any other questions?
Is there a process, like counseling or any help offered?
We do. I mean, we have an employee assistance program, and through that, people can get into various kinds of, whatever problems they might have, whether they're drug or substance abuse, or they're financial, or they're marital, or anything else. And then in addition to that, the FOP has programs. There's a very good program that started up here about a year and a half or 2 years ago. That is, I don't remember the acronym for it, but it is basically like AA for cops. That's all that go there, or police officers, which makes it a little easier for them because, as you can imagine, it's a little bit tough for any of us to probably walk. I haven't had to do that, but to walk into an AA meeting and sit in there, and particularly if you go into there with people that maybe you've had contact with in your professional life, it's a little harder. So there are lots of avenues out there. There are lots of places for people to get help. They just have to choose to do it.
But it's all about choice.
Yes.
Just to clarify again, those two charges back in, it was December 2011, correct?
Yes.
And what were the two charges that you tried to stick?
Well, there were several, and I don't have it all in front of me.
It's in your packet.
It's probably in your packet. But there's because there were no criminal charges, and administratively, and it's a little bit fuzzy, but you got to keep in mind there are two things going on all the time here. Like with the thing last night, she was charged criminally with the DUI leaving the scene of a crash. That will be dealt with like anybody else that's charged with a crime. It'll be dealt with by the state attorney's office. Administratively, we look at whether they violated our policies and procedures. And in the December of 2011 case, we didn't have any criminal charges. We only had administrative charges. And those, we call it commission of acts supporting criminal misconduct, which is basically you broke the law, but it's not breaking the law because it's just our policy.
And who's in charge? Because I'm not very familiar with the arbitration process. Who was on her side? Who was on your? I mean, what is that? Attorneys back and forth?
Pretty much. The Office of General Counsel provides us with an attorney. The FOP provided her with an attorney. There is a panel of arbitrators that both sides have agreed to, and there's a rotating list, and they get an arbitrator. And it's a very fair process, and the arbitrator listened. He listened to the facts that day, and he reached his conclusion, and that's what he came to. So like I said, obviously, I didn't do a good enough job with it.
Here, just one more question. Is drugs suspected in this?
I don't know
Did
yet.
she take, was she given a test looking at the suspect using drugs?
The internal process will, yeah, they'll be working on that, but I really can't talk about an active internal investigation, but.
But can we assume that she was given some kind of test for, if it's,
Yes, but I don't have any results.
right, yeah, well, let those take time.
When was that first DUI?
The first one I've got is March of 2006.
Okay.
That was a crash, you said?
Yeah, and FHP investigated that.
Okay, and is that it says she was suspended 160 days?
Yeah, that's a 20-day suspension.
That's it. Oh, that was.
Hours.
I
It's
see.
160
I
hours.
see, I see.
Yeah,
Got it.
because we have people that work different hour shifts. We got 8-hour people, we got
Got it.
10-hour people. When we suspend them, we do it so it's
Got it,
consistent. Everybody's
got it,
8-hour
got it,
days.
got it.
Any other questions? All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.